you ever wondered exactly where the Millennial Kingdom is or will be? That's what we're going to talk about today. I've got a lot of questions to go over, and I'm going to try to dig into this with you today. Welcome. I'm Donita from prairie-trail.com. And today we are digging into some questions and interesting thoughts some of you have been sharing with me. But before we really get into the questions, I want to go over a few terms. Okay, Millennial Kingdom. Let's see. This is interesting. Derived from the Latin word millennium, meaning a period of 1,000 years. In biblical context, this refers to the 1,000-year reign of the Messiah mentioned in Revelation 23. Okay. And just throughout Revelation 20. Revelation 20 is let's say a chapter and verse from Revelation depicting the binding of Satan for 1,000 years. And then it says after he is bound for 1,000 years and the Messiah reigns, then there's this short season that Satan is released and gathers up all of his buddies and tries to sack the Millennial Kingdom camp, the assembly, the camp. So we're trying to figure out what's going on. Also, eschatology is a word, and Shelley over at No Place Like a Home and I have both talked about some of Dr. Michael Heiser's work on eschatology. Eschatos in Greek means last, and logos means to study. So eschatology means the study of the end times, the study of the last days, which includes the Millennial Kingdom and the short season, right? Okay, we've got a few Bible verses. Proverbs 25:2, it is the glory of God to conceal things, but the glory of kings to search them out. We are heirs in the kingdom. If you have Yeshua, the Messiah, Jesus Christ, in your heart, if you have repented of your sins and your shortcomings and downfalls and all the things that we wish we wouldn't do, if you have repented of those, and repenting means to turn away from those things, and asked him into your heart to help you to overcome the things that you don't like about yourself and that other people may have a hard time with as well, then, you are an heir of the kingdom. You are part of Israel. You are the church. You're the remnant in these days. And, welcome. We're all brothers and sisters here. So we are, as heirs of the kingdom, kings, little k kings, not big K kings, but little k kings, searching these things out, basically. Okay, so Proverbs 25:2 does apply to us. If David and Solomon had searched things out a little bit better, they might not have had 70 or 700 wives. And my husband's not here listening, or he'd be, oh, what happened? He likes to tease me about, well, I need more wives like that. He's silly. He can barely put up with me. I don't know why he thinks he would want another woman around. He doesn't, I'm sure. Plus 4 daughters. I mean, he's surrounded, right? Okay. Isaiah 14:12-15. I think Shelley actually found this when we were visiting the other day. How you are fallen from the heavens. And we know this scripture. Once I start reading it, you're going to go, oh yeah, I've heard this one. How you are fallen from the heaven, O day star, son of dawn. How you are cut down to the ground, you who laid the nations low. You said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven. above the stars of God. I will set my throne on high. I will sit on the mount of assembly in the far reaches, which is remote parts of the north. The word of the north is the word Zaphon. It's used 4 times in Hebrew, and the word literally means north. It also means covered, protected, concealed, secret, private, unknown, unmanifest, hidden. And it also means facing east, north, north quarter, northern, north wind. Okay? And then I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. But you are, instead of that happening to you, you're saying that. Satan basically is saying that. But you are brought down to Sheol, to the far reaches of the pit. So anyway, this is, in Isaiah, he's getting this little tidbit basically about the end times, right? And this little tidbit is like God saying, yeah, Satan's saying this, but this is what's actually going to happen to him. So he's doing everything right now that he possibly can to to get to heaven and take over heaven and take as many of us down with him, basically, is what he's trying to do. And then Matthew, but that was very interesting. We've like heard this, but it like to the remote parts or far reaches of the north. And it's like, is that a clue? Is that a clue? And then Matthew 27:51 through 54. And behold, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth shook. This was when Jesus died. He gave up the ghost. And the earth shook, and the rocks split, and the tombs were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep, died, were raised. And coming out of their tombs after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many. So we had kind of a question here. Can you get the question? The bodies of the saints who were dead, their tombs, they came out of their tombs after his resurrection. So they were raised. It was like they were raised when this earthquake happened, when he died, but they didn't actually come out of their tombs until he ascended. So were they just hanging out in their tombs for a little while until, or were they with him whenever he was doing whatever he was doing in between? I don't know. Questions. We're just giving lots of questions here, okay? And then Matthew 28:1 through 5. Now, after the Sabbath, toward the dawn of the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb, and behold, there was a great earthquake, another great earthquake. For an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. I love that. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes white as snow. And for fear of him, the guards trembled and became like dead men. I mean, shocked to death. Wow. Anyway, I mean, he's just like, this angel's coming. He's like rolling this huge stone out of the road and then just sits on it and waits for somebody to come along. And then, the angel said to the women, do not be afraid, for I know that you seek Jesus who was crucified. That should give us kind of an idea here of when people are seeing angels, and there's a lot of times that we entertain angels unaware. That happens, right? So they can disguise themselves so that we really don't know that they're anything other than a human. But also, there are so many times in scriptures where the angels are frightening to behold. I just shared a video from TikTok of somebody made a biblically correct angel food cake. And they did this angel food cake and they put a whole bunch of eyes on it and they put wings on it. The video had bad language. I don't know why people feel like they need to have this terrible bad language, but anyway, it was so funny. It was a really pretty cake, other than it's got these creepy eyeball, the little sugar eyeballs. It's like biblically correct angel food cake. Anyway, it was funny. I thought it was funny. So we had several questions. So whenever you're talking about Revelation 20, you're talking about the martyrs. I should probably pull it up here, right? Let's take things directly from the word. I can't type this morning. It's really cold here. It's been raining for like 2 days, which is lovely. After years and years of drought, it's like mud, but it's really, really cold too. So my hands are like freezing and they're not wanting to type properly. So Revelation 20, let's see, talked about, yeah, I'm going to start in verse 4. Then I saw thrones, and seated on them were those to whom the authority to judge was committed. I also saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for the testimony of Jesus, Yeshua, and for the word of God, and those who had not worshipped the beast or its image, and had not received its mark on their foreheads or their hands. They came to life and reigned with the Messiah, the Anointed One, for 1,000 years. The rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is the one who shares in the first resurrection. Over such, the second death has no power, but they will be priests of God and of Messiah, and they will reign with him for 1,000 years. Okay, so it's telling you exactly who's reigning with him for 1,000 years. The soul, it's, let's see, it's the, I saw on the throne seated them, those to whom authority to judge was committed. So there were those. And I really wonder if those the authority to judge was committed were maybe the saints that rose during the resurrection, during his death and resurrection, crucifixion and resurrection time, is what I'm wondering. And my thought process has been that everybody who was saved, the faithful, before he came, rose. Now, it doesn't say that, but my thought was that that was their resurrection. That was like Old Testament resurrection, that they got to be resurrected when he gave his sacrifice and then rose from the grave. So that's my thought process. It doesn't say that specifically, but it says, and I saw thrones, and seated on them were those to whom authority to judge was committed. So it would make sense to me that those would be the ones, because they were faithful without him. I mean, he's always been there. He's always been there, right? And the prophets talked, and the whole thing has been leading up to him. And if you have my first book, Star Chronicles, a Bible-based study of the stars, I show you how the stars, whenever Noah and his family got off the ark, I think they had a library with them. Okay. Personally, I don't think they were running around in robes. I think they probably had buttons and buckles. They they weren't half-naked savages who just had animals and wooden buckets, okay? They had technology. They probably had some form of writing. they may have had computers and SD cards. Okay. I would not put it past them having something like that. There are carvings of what look like laptops and cell phones. All right. They had record with them. And the book of Enoch, I do believe, was one of those. The I believe the first book of Enoch, not 2 and 3, those are Gnostic pieces. But the first book of Enoch, I definitely believe they had on the ark with them. But no matter what you believe as far as that's concerned, they had the stars. One way or another, they had the stars. And the stars tell a story. It's not the zodiac. That's a misrepresentation of God's creation. The stars are up there in patterns with stories, and the names of the stars, the original Aramaic names of those stars, tell the story of his coming and what he was going to do. So they had that. They had the gospel. It hadn't happened yet, but they had it. So those are saints, because Jesus said, you know, it's wonderful that you believe. Wasn't that Thomas that he was talking to? It's wonderful that you believe, but blessed are those who don't see and believe, right? So anyway, and then it goes on to say, and then all the souls who had been beheaded for the testimony and the word. So we're talking about the martyrs here. So wherever you're at in the whole millennial reign thing, and whether Jesus has already done this or he hasn't yet, wherever you are at, we know that we've got two groups of people that are reigning with him or going to be reigning with him, whichever way, in the millennial kingdom. We have those people that rose whenever he died and resurrected, and then we have the martyrs. And when we think of martyrs, we tend to think, I mean, there's been martyrs through the generations of history, if our history is the least bit correct. But we definitely know that there were martyrs. Nero did some pretty nasty stuff during that time period. And there were martyrs from that. So those people are in that millennial kingdom, right? So, and they are going for 1,000 years. So Shelley's question was, what about the living survivors of the tribulation? Now, if you believe in a secret rapture, please move on to another channel. This is not the channel for you. This is not the place for you. There is nothing in the Bible. Rapture means rape, and we're looking for the marriage supper of the Lamb. Jesus doesn't rape his people. He doesn't rape his bride. There is no rapture, okay? The twinkling of an eye is in context of something completely different that rapture people do not get. They do not understand the context of the Feast of Trumpets and what he is talking about whenever he says, no man knows the day or the hour. So he was talking about specific things in the Old Testament that rapture people say the Old Testament doesn't matter anymore. So if you're one of those, go on. Don't leave that comment. Don't leave that comment, because it's not going to be, it's not going to do anybody any good, because I am reading my Bible. If you're reading your Bible, praise the Lord, move on, go read it and have fun and go talk to your rapture people. Okay, now that we've established that. Shelley's like, what about the living survivors of the tribulation? Because this is after the tribulation. The tribulation has happened. Those who were beheaded for the testimony are oops, I thought I had that turned off. I am so sorry about that. Those people are, they're reigning. So the tribulation's already happened. The martyrs are in the millennial kingdom, right? So Shelley's like, what about those who are actually surviving the tribulation, that didn't die, or that maybe died, but not in a martyr's way, They had an accident, they died of old age, they, things like that. What about them? Where are they? Where are the non-resurrected people of the kingdom who made it through the tribulation? And I know there is that scripture about meeting him in the air. Let's see, maybe I can find that real quick. Oops, that's not. I've got way too many tabs up. You guys do not want to see a screen share right now. Let's see. Bible, meet Jesus in the air. Let's see. Thessalonians, is that the one we're looking for? Yeah, I think it's Thessalonians. Let's do 15 through 18 and see what that gives me. For this we declare to you by the word from the Lord that we who are alive and who are left until the coming of the Lord will not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a cry of command, and with the voice of an archangel, and with the sound of a trumpet, the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. And then we who are alive, who are left, will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. So we will always be with the Lord. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. I love that verse. But this is in Thessalonians. Okay, this is in First Thessalonians. This isn't in Revelation. We don't know where exactly this fits. And I know there are pastors, teachers, and everything else that like to take scriptures and go, oh, this one goes here, and this one goes here, and this one goes here. But we need to just kind of keep it, we need to keep it in context of where it's at and who's talking and what's happening with it, right? And that can be kind of hard to do. It really can, because it's so easy to say, oh yeah, this sounds like, and and I just gave you some verses, right? I just literally gave you several different verses that, yeah, Proverbs 25:2, of course, that's just talking about, or we're searching the word, right? Isaiah 14, Matthew 27 and 28. We're talking about some different ones. And we want to be careful about how we're trying to connect these things. So, some people want, I know Shelley gets a lot of flack because people want her to uh, just make a flying comment of this is the way it is. And wouldn't it be nice if we just knew this is the way it is. This is the how the events will come out or have happened. But we're finding that nothing is as it seems. We need to be careful about that. We just need to be careful. We need to not put God in a box. He's many dimensions more than we are. We're like these little 2, 3, we think we're in 3 dimensions, but I wonder sometimes, we're very finite compared to him. I mean, when the children of Israel got done with their wilderness, well, no, before they went into the wilderness, and they went into the promised land, and they're like, we're like grasshoppers to these giants. Yeah, yeah. And those were, physical giants with demon spirits, I'm sure. So, you know, yeah, he's much bigger than we are. He's got a much bigger perspective than we are. He's much older than we are. I mean, just kind of think about it here. So we need to not put him in a box and not try to say, oh yeah, this, and it's fun to dig it out. It's fun to question and say, hey, maybe this connects. And then, but whenever somebody is saying this connects to this, period, end of story, be careful, because there may be that this connects to this, but there may also be it may not connect, and I've been wrong a lot. And I am to the point that I really respect that Shelley's not willing to definitively say, this is the way it is. We're not teachers. Not in that way. We're not we're not pastors. We're not preachers. That's not what we're doing. We're learning with you. Okay. So in that, if you're looking for somebody to give you the answers, the only one that needs to be giving you the answers is the scripture, and that's where we need to be. So I thought that was a really great question. We do have this First Thessalonian thing, but and this is talking about the coming of the Lord, but in Revelation there definitely is kind of more than one coming of the Lord. There's the tribulation coming of the Lord, and then there's the after the millennium, whatever's going on there, right? So there's a lot going on. So if these people that were living whenever this stuff happened, they didn't die, so they weren't part of the first resurrection that it's talking about. And let's just say they lived through it, they survived it, and they moved on, right? They had children, their children had children, and here we are today, right? Maybe. And so whenever those people are coming out of the tribulation, then you've got maybe some generations of people who really love the Lord that aren't in the millennial kingdom. So if the millennial kingdom is actually in the north, or if it's hidden under the sea, I mean, it could be hidden under the sea, like in a sunken Atlantis type thing. It could be in one of the outer reaches if there's more than one ice wall around, and it could be hidden out there in one of those places. Maybe that's why they're always in Antarctica, trying to look and find that, trying to get through there. Maybe it's at the North Pole, and that's why it's smudged out the way it is, and they're trying to, but it says that they will, after the 1,000 years are ended, and when the 1,000 years are ended, this is verse 7 of chapter 20 of Revelation. And when the 1,000 years are ended, Satan will be released from his prison and will come out to deceive the nations that are at the four corners. And I did look up the four corners, and one of the subscribers left a comment and said it means 4 quarters, and it can definitely mean that. So when somebody's saying, well, how can it be a circle and have corners? Well, there's a couple of different ways, but it also has quarters of the pie, So there's that too. The 4 quarters of the earth, and I'm just going to say quarters, Gog and Magog to gather them for battle. And okay, that's verse 8, and their numbers like the sand of the sea. We've got Gog and Magog. Now, one of those is Russia. Okay, Gog, Magog, Russia. Let me see, which one is it? I don't remember. Magog is the land of the far north. So Magog, Russia. I know Russia, some Russians actually consider themselves one or the other, Gog or Magog, one of them. I can't remember which it is. But you're talking about a whole lot of people. And who's got the biggest population, right? And they have tried to erase a whole country, I think more than one, but definitely one big country off the face of history, right? Tartaria. So we've got Gog and Magog. Tartaria, all the old maps show Tartaria over there around taking up parts of Russia and China. So we've got this whole thing of Russia and China banding together right now. Um, and it's almost like old Tartaria is coming back together, right? And in Revelation, we've got Gog and Magog gathering for battle, and their number is like the sand of the sea. That is interesting. That is very interesting. And they marched up over the broad plain of the earth. There's another biblical proof for you guys. The broad plain of the earth. I haven't looked it up in Greek, but somebody do that because yeah, it's there. Over the broad plain of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints and the beloved city. But fire came down from heaven and consumed them. Okay, so they're surrounding the camp of the saints and the beloved city. And then Isaiah is talking about, go back to that. Isaiah is talking about, what Satan is saying. And it seems like this is really what he's saying at this time. It's all wrapping up. Things are happening. He knows his time is short. It's a little season that he is going to be loosed, right? He is deceiving the nations like all get out. And he's naming the deceptions after himself. I mean, come on, really. NASA. You guys hadn't thought of that, I'm sure. But anyway, and Isaiah's sitting here. This is what he's saying. He's saying, I will ascend to the heaven above the stars. SpaceX, guys. I will set my throne on high. I will sit on the mount of the assembly. The UN, maybe. They have that, seat number 666 is saved for somebody special. And I will ascend above the heights of the cloud, and I will make myself like the Most High. Okay. And where is he doing that? In the far reaches, remote parts of the north. I mean, I'm not saying these two verses definitely go together, but it's interesting. Shelly found a gem here. I might actually be sharing this before she is. And if I am, then beat you, Shelly. I know she was going to be doing something, but she's been trying to take a break from this. But then my brain kicked in. And then I'm like, hey, what about this? And she's like, I'm like, I am so sorry, Shelly. I know you were going to take a break from the subject for a while, but now my brain has kicked in and it's ridiculous. And it's like, we were talking about Lazarus. And okay, there's several people in the Bible that were raised from the dead. Elijah raised a child from the dead. Elisha raised a child from the dead. Jesus raised a child from the dead. Paul raised a child from the dead. Lazarus was raised from the dead after 4 days, right? Because they were saying, oh Lord, don't roll that stone away. He stinketh. I like the King James on that one. Do not rolleth away the stoneth. The body will stinketh. Anyway, yeah, Lazarus. So my thought process is because this is something that happened, those people, Lazarus is a little different because, like the children that were raised from the dead, they hadn't been dead very long, right? And the one that was thrown, the soldier that was thrown into Elisha's tomb because they were in a hurry and they threw his body in the tomb and his body bounced back out alive. I mean, there's some crazy stuff in the Bible, but yeah. And so, he hadn't been dead very long, obviously. The children hadn't been dead very long, but Lazarus had been dead for quite a while. And it's like the ones that hadn't been dead for very long, it's like, I'm just assuming those children grew up, got married, had their own families, lived their lives, got old, and died again, right? But it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that that's not the case. We make a lot of assumptions when we're reading the Bible. We really do. We make a lot of assumptions. So, since Lazarus died and he was dead for several days, when he was raised, did he go ahead and age and grow old and die again? Did he end up being one of the martyrs? Or is he still alive? I mean, Jesus did have that Highlander verse that said, some of you that are here will not taste death until I come back. Well, if that was a generation later, between the 30 whatever AD and 70 AD is 40 years, which is a generation biblically, a generation. The Israelites were in the wilderness for a generation, which was 40 years in the wilderness. You know, you have this repetitive cycle throughout Judges. Each generation, they would have a generation that they'd do really good, and then they'd have a generation that they'd fall away, and then and then they would start crying out to God again, and he would send another judge. So there's these cycles. Many things are cyclical. People do this. And if you think about your own life, you do this. You have these cycles that you go throughout life, seasons, right? So anyway, that some very interesting thoughts there. So yeah, what happened to the non-martyred believers? And then where did Jesus and the saints go? If this stuff has already happened and we're in the short season now, if we are in, I'm not saying we are, if we are in the short season right now, which honestly, people, I don't know how we could be in any greater deception than the deception that we are coming out of right now. Seriously. The deception from around 1850 to the awakening that we've been going through the last 20 years has been amazing. Has it not? I mean, if that is not the Revelation 20 deceiving of the nations, which I'm starting to call the Great Deception. You can call the Millennium whatever you want to. You can call the short season or little while or whatever all you want to, but I'm calling this and the time that we're living in right now the Great Deception. To me, that's what we're doing. We are coming out of it, the remnant. So where are they? If that's the case, and that's where we are, where is the camp of the saints? Because people have taken this scripture in 20 and said, oh, Gog and Magog, Russia and China. Everybody's always known it's Russia and China, even before the Tartarian stuff came out. They've always known it's Russia and China. Okay, so these kings of the north, the Gog and Magog, are going to come and surround, and they've always assumed that's Jerusalem and Israel. And whether the biblical countries and stuff are exactly, you know, we established with one of the last videos that Babylon was a worldwide empire. Egypt was a worldwide empire. Therefore, Persia was probably what? A worldwide empire. So all these buildings that we see with the golden domes and things on top, does that not remind you of Persian things? Could those not have been built during the Persian worldwide empire? That's what it's making me think. And then we have, if you go through the statue from the book of Daniel, from Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar's dream statue, we had the Egyptian Empire already, and then we have the Babylonian Empire was next, and then the Medes and the Persians, and then the Greeks, okay? And that all happened in Daniel's lifetime fast, but each one lasted just kind of a little bit longer and a little bit longer. So then you have the Greeks and Alexander the not so great type of thing. And so what kind of architecture are the Greeks known for? It's worldwide, right? So I think this architecture, we definitely see the Egyptian style all over the place. And then we tend to think the Babylonians more the step pyramids instead of the Egyptian type things, the step pyramids. So we definitely see step pyramids all over the world, right? So then we have the Medes and the Persians, and the Persian style of architecture. We see that all over the world, right? And then we have the Greek style of architecture all over the world. And we're trying to say that people were copying things, but no, what if these things were actually built in these different parts of the world at these different times? Because we know that people would take over the same cities over and over and over again, right? So why would we think that would only happen in the Middle East, right? No, definitely not. And then you have the Roman thing. And I think the Romans are accredited to things that either the Greeks or pre-flood people did. That's my thought process. I don't really know how much the Romans did themselves. I'm sure they did some stuff themselves. I don't think they built the road. Maybe they did. I don't think so. And then you have this Roman, influence that goes to the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages, which I really lean toward the thought process that didn't exist at all. It was made up, and all that stuff was just kind of stretched out to put history, to sprinkle that history in that time period. And those things happened actually much closer together. It's happened before. Patterns of evidence proved that they did that with Egyptian history. So if they could do it with Egyptian history, why could they not have done it with the Dark Ages? Okay. And you're welcome to disagree with me, because I don't always agree with myself here. So anyway, that was kind of a rant off the thing, but I think we need to understand this. So when they're Gog and Magog and Satan are surrounding the camp of the saints, it ain't Jerusalem. I'm sorry, guys. It's not. I'm pretty sure it's not. Because that's not a camp of the saints right now. It's not. And it's definitely not if we're where we think we are right now, those of you who've stuck with me this long, if we're where we think we are right now, then if you put it in this context, we know Jerusalem ain't it right now, because Jesus isn't reigning there. He hasn't been reigning there for 1,000 years, and the saints aren't there, right? This is a hidden city, and this is where I really think that Shelley was right, and Isaiah 14 just really seems to fit with us. It's a hidden city. So I'm amazed that she found that, and I'm so glad that she did. And if they are at the North Pole, or the elites up to something in Antarctica, trying to, do something about this? What are they gathering? What are they trying to accomplish? We know where the kingdom is not, basically. It's not anywhere where we can see it. Are they searching? Are they looking for it? Is that what the submarines are for? Is that what they're actually really trying to do? Is that what they're doing in Antarctica? Is that what they're doing? And maybe they're still looking in all those different places. Plus, I also think, because I thought with CERN and stuff, they're trying to release the beast. Well, no, if he's released, then he could be behind CERN and HARP and all the other stuff, trying to release his buddies, because the Watchers are left in the pit, or under the Euphrates and wherever all they're chained up. It doesn't say anything about letting them out, right? They're waiting for judgment, but he gets a chance to double up and deceive the nations. Well, don't you think he wants them helping? So he's trying to tear through the veil and get them loosed. I think that's part of it. Maybe. Let's see. How much have I? I've got pages of things that we've talked about. And also, that we keep going back to the incubator babies and the orphan dreams. And could that be something that those are maybe resurrected babies that had died before and they weren't resurrected for the millennial time, and then after the millennial time, then there in the 1800s, they were resurrected, and these babies, just like Cabbage Patches, came up, started showing up. I mean, and the orphans. It makes you wonder if something wasn't going on, because the whole Cabbage Patch story, the orphan trains, the incubator babies, the orphans sent on ships to Australia. And I don't know a whole lot about all of that, but it just makes you really wonder. And we did kind of talk about the difference between a glorified body and a resurrected body. Obviously, some of these people that were raised throughout the ages, they weren't given like glorified bodies. They had resurrected bodies, whereas you're assuming that the martyrs and the saints were maybe given glorified bodies. And maybe they don't get the glorified body until they actually get into the camp with him. I don't know. But somebody was saying, well, these buildings must have been built for glorified bodies because there are no bathrooms. And I'm like, well, some of these buildings aren't what you think they are. And they weren't actually buildings for people to live in. Castles, cathedrals, I think a lot of them were, well, there's no bathrooms in the pyramids either, but nobody expects to see that, right? But there's no bathrooms and things for a couple of reasons. One, the our sewer system situation that we do nowadays is not efficient at all. People are starting to go back to a composting system with like their tiny homes and stuff like that, and going back to like a composting type system, which is much more efficient. It's better for everything. Okay. Human manure is actually really good for trees. Okay. You wouldn't want to spread that around in your garden, but it's really good for the orchard. Okay. So, they would have known that because they were smarter than we are. If they could build those buildings, they're smarter than we are. So first of all, they probably had some kind of composting system, and you could have easily, they're portable. I mean, you can have a very easy composting system that is portable. Check out Off Grid with Doug and Stacy. They've got a great system that they do. So yeah, that is it. So a sewage system like we think of is not efficient. Now, if they could build those huge aqueducts, and the Roman stuff, they actually had a sewage system that I think was a lot more efficient than what people want to realize today. But if you're doing a huge aqueduct, you could also do a sewage system like on a very large scale for those cities that, water has to travel about X amount of space over like rocks and stuff before it purifies. It purifies itself. And so they probably had a much more efficient system than what, and we're not recognizing it. The other thing is those buildings aren't always what we think they are. The cathedrals look a lot like power stations to me. We have power stations off, in various places out here. I'm sure you guys do too. But if you just kind of look at a picture of a cathedral and a picture of a power station, yep, it looks very much the same. The cathedral was a much cleaner way of power because it was bringing it from the ether instead of what they're doing. I imagine the power stations are probably pulling from the ether as well. They probably have that figured in so that people who work on them don't realize where it's all coming from, right? But they look so similar. And people who know more about that type of engineering can tell you more about that type of thing. The castles, people didn't live in the big castle thing. They had a big wall and then you had things on the inside. So it was a little different scenario. And it was probably built for something a little bit different than what we tend to think. People found this stuff and said, oh, I'm going to live here. This looks really cool. I will have my own castle. And it's like, then you have issues trying to turn something that wasn't meant to be a home into a home, and yeah, and upkeep and stuff on something that you don't understand how it was built and how it was made and how it works, then doing the maintenance and repair on something like that and updates and things like that are going to be much harder for you because you don't understand the original concept to begin with. And hence things fall apart with age, right? So anyway, let's see. And somebody else brought up, did it happen all at once or did it happen gradually? We're impatient people. And we tend to look at these scriptures and say, oh, this is going to be boom, 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 boom. There's going to be these trumpets, and there's this trumpet, and this is going to happen, and this trumpet, and this is going to happen, and this trumpet, and this is going to happen, and we tend to think, boom, 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 it's going to happen like that. Maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, I do think things are cyclical. So even if the tribulation already happened, that doesn't mean we're not going through tribulation now. Just because there was a 7-year thing that may have happened in the past doesn't mean we're not going to have a 7-year something now. And that may also be part of the deception, trying to deceive people into believing that they're coming into something that has already happened. I mean, we've got this whole Mandela effect thing of people trying to gaslight whole generations of people into believing what they remember is wrong. And you have actors, authors, I mean, publishing companies and everything that are in on this stuff. It's crazy. And they're all trying to convince us we've got mental health issues. And, that's a whole nother rabbit hole there. Let's see. So if we've got all this, and if all this stuff has happened, then what do we have to look forward to? Well, if so much of it has already happened and we're in the short season, we have to look forward to a lot less than what we thought. Because we're already seeing the deception as the remnant. We're already saying, oh, yeah, we're seeing this great deception happen, and we are coming out of it, and we are seeing the truth, and we are seeing God in what is happening and what's going on. And we are not looking for 1,000 years and then, oh my goodness, we've got to go through another something. No. If we're in the short season, then we're sitting here, we've got this little bitty space, this paragraph of verse 7 through verse 10 before the great white judgment, before the great white throne, and the books opened and finding our names written in the book of life, and then getting over to Revelation 21 and the new heaven and the new earth. I'm looking forward to that. I am ready for the new heaven and the new earth. The more I realize that the beautiful scenery that I've been appreciating all of my life is a bunch of dead things or ruined cities and stuff, the more I realize that it's not really something beautiful, that it is something desolate and ruined and dead, the more I'm looking forward to the new heaven and the new earth. So that's what we have to look forward to. We have to look forward to a continuing growth of our community and the remnant, a continuing, even though we all feel so isolated right now. And if you've made it this long, then I love you guys. We can look forward to feeling less and less isolated as more and more people come to this truth and understanding and seeing the deception. We can look forward to our brothers and sisters in the Messiah coming together and the remnant really, really catching on, you know, and the new heaven and the new earth. I mean, that's what we've got to look forward to. So that's amazing. So I think I've prattled on plenty at this point. Let's see. Have you guys got the magazine? I'm assuming. The ones that I mailed it to, I've been hearing from you guys saying that you got it, and thank you for letting me know whenever you get it. Whenever you have time to read through it, if you don't mind leaving a review on Amazon for me, let them know, say I got this as a gift, and leave a review, how you thought, honest review. If you haven't subscribed to this next year, I'm really looking forward to it. We're going to be adding in some things for the children in the next year's magazines, and they're digital, so they're printable, things that you can print for the children. And yeah, and if you don't have the Star Chronicles book, this is a great time to get that one. You can get the coloring book free whenever you sign up for my newsletter on prairie-trail.com. And don't forget the Patreon. I've got freebies over there. And I was going to start, I don't know if I'm going to get the witchcraft study started before the end of the year. But if I don't get it started this month, I'm definitely going to start it next month and it'll be going. But I've got a lot of notes and stuff, and I'm trying to get some input. If you're in my Patreon, I've got a poll in there to kind of how you guys would like to see that laid out. So anyway, I love y'all. And remember, you can make it through the dust storms of life with God's divine help. I'm praying for y'all.